what if I told you that some of the most successful ideas in the world, the ones that are total game changers, are the ones that, on paper, make absolutely no sense? Today, we're diving into Rory Sutherland's brilliant book, Alchemy. It's all about why we should abandon our obsession with pure logic and start embracing the messy, magical world of actual human behavior.
And to really get what this means, let's kick things off with a puzzle that completely defies all conventional business wisdom.
Okay, so picture this. You're in a boardroom. Your one job is to create a rival to Coca-Cola. So what's the plan? Well, the logical playbook is pretty clear, right? You'd probably make something that tastes better, costs less, and hey, let's put it in a bigger bottle for more value. That's the sensible, rational, nobody gets fired for this approach.
But one company came along and did the exact opposite. I mean, a strategy that seemed completely absurd. They launched a drink that early taste testers called, well, kind of disgusting. They jacked up the price, making it way more expensive than Coke, and they put it in this tiny little can. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? Well, that company was, of course, Red Bull.
And that completely illogical, totally counterintuitive strategy, it built a brand that now sells over 6 billion cans a year. Yeah, that's enough cash to run a Formula One team just for fun. So, what on earth is going on here? How did that work?
The reason the Red Bull story feels so shocking is because, as Sutherland argues, we live under what he calls the tyranny of logic. We have built this entire world that runs on spreadsheets, on economic models, on business cases that demand a rational, buttoned-up explanation for absolutely everything. And in that world, there's just no room left for, well, for magic.
Sutherland has this great analogy for this. He says our tools for understanding people are like a pair of broken binoculars. One lens is market research, just asking people what they want. The other lens is economic theory, which just assumes we're all hyper-rational robots making perfect calculations. The big problem? Both of those lenses are cracked, giving us this really distorted, fuzzy picture of what's actually going on.
And this really gets to the heart of the issue. Our obsession with logic means we crave certainty. We try to apply these clean, predictable rules of physics to the messy, unpredictable world of human psychology, and it just doesn't work. We end up completely missing the real why behind what people do. And here's the kicker. If everyone in your industry is being logical, you all end up at the exact same boring answer. It makes you predictable. And in business, predictable is weak.
Okay, so if our old way of looking at the world is broken, what's the fix? What's the new lens we should be using? Well, Sutherland has a name for it: psychologic.
Now hold on. Psychologic isn't the same thing as being irrational or crazy. Think of it more like a different operating system for the human brain. It's one that's evolved over millennia to be useful, not to be mathematically perfect. It's totally tuned into things like context, emotion, and all the subconscious cues that neat, clean logic just pretends don't exist.
Sutherland compares human motivation to a cryptic crossword puzzle, and it's a brilliant way to think about it. You see, there's the obvious, surface-level clue. That's the logical reason we say we do something. But hiding underneath all that, there's a much deeper, hidden, psychological answer. The real trick is to learn how to look past that first obvious clue and find the real solution.
This grid from the book lays it all out perfectly. You see that top right quadrant? That's where pure logic lives. Things that make sense and also work. Like building a Boeing 787. But the real magic, the alchemy, happens in the bottom right. These are the things that seem weird on paper but just work. Red Bull is the poster child for this quadrant. And so are bicycles, which, fun fact, physicists still can't fully explain. These ideas succeed because they're not speaking to our inner accountant, they're speaking to our psychologic.
Okay, so theory is great, but how does this all play out in the real world? Let's dig into a fascinating experiment that really put logic on trial.
So, a charity was testing different envelopes for a fundraising drive. One version went for a very logical appeal. It reminded people that their donation would get a 25% boost from a tax rebate. Makes sense, right? More bang for your buck. The other tests, though, were all psychological. They focused on seemingly trivial details, like using higher quality paper or just mentioning the envelope was delivered by a volunteer.
The results were, well, mind-blowing. The logical appeal, the one that made the most financial sense, it actually decreased donations by over 30%. Meanwhile, those little psychological nudges, the signals of effort and quality, they boosted donations by 10%. So what does this tell us? It means the feeling of reciprocity and perceived value completely steamrolled the rational financial incentive. It wasn't even close.
Or think about the Uber map. This is what Sutherland calls a psychological moonshot. That little map showing your car getting closer, it doesn't actually reduce your wait time by a single second. But what it does is transform the experience of waiting. It replaces that awful, frustrating uncertainty with a feeling of progress. It makes the same 5 minutes feel 90% less agonizing. See? It doesn't solve the logical problem of waiting, it solves the human problem of hating to wait. That right there is alchemy.
Okay, this is seriously powerful stuff. So the big question is, how can we start thinking more like an alchemist in our own work, in our own lives?
Well, the book gives us a few fantastic rules of thumb. First, always remember, the opposite of a good idea can also be a good idea. Don't just follow the herd. Second, it doesn't pay to be logical if everyone else is also being logical. You'll all just end up in the same place. Third, and this is a big one, dare to be trivial. Those small, seemingly irrelevant details can have a massive impact on how people feel. And finally, you have to test the counterintuitive ideas, because I guarantee you, nobody else will. That's where the undiscovered treasure is buried.
Alchemy is really a powerful reminder that in an age of big data and algorithms, the most important variable is still the weird, wonderful, and unpredictable human mind. As Sutherland himself says, the problem with logic is that it kills off magic. So, the question to leave you with is this. In our relentless pursuit of things that make sense, what magic are we killing off?